Welcome to another episode of the Opinions Podcast. I'm Bobby B with the opinions you want to hear, and I'm here with my main man.
What it do, man? It's Los Hurt. My humble opinion, what's going down?
Man, today we got a special guest. We got an OG basketball guru in Houston, Mr. Cheat Sheet himself, Jim Hicks. Jim Hicks, welcome to the Opinions Podcast, brother.
What's going
Yes,
on,
sir.
man? It's an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight.
Yes, sir.
First, we want to take time out to just say, man, we appreciate you for taking time to come out on our platform. We definitely appreciate it. To get somebody like you on there, we was excited. As soon as I told Los, you gave us some slide. He was like, man, let's get that shit done tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So we
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Real quick, man, back in those days playing basketball, social media wasn't really up to par like that. Now you older than us, but it seemed like you got the social media game in the chokehold, man. Everywhere I go, Jim Hicks on the television screen, you on the chop shop, you everywhere. Just getting a little bit about some of the platforms that people can find you at, Mr. Hicks.
Well, of course, it all started with the website, which is RCS Sports.com. You see it in in right there next to my name, but .com instead of the HOF. That was first back in 2002. I think we started the website. Then the magazine came next, and the magazine, which came out, the first issue was 2003, November, the very first issue of the RCS Sports, the magazine. Uh, then, as far as platforms, about 2007, believe it or not, a lot of people don't know, I was part of the first ever live, what people call podcast now, but the first ever live stream basketball talk show in the world. I was on in 2006 or 2007. It was alongside Terry Burdick. It started off being called Nothing But Net, and then Terry Burdick, he did a lot of the videos and for HISD and a lot of the private schools back then. And so he had a studio in his crib in his townhouse, and we would go there on Wednesday nights. Then he got some real estates. He got so popular, and we had teams would come in. People could actually call in to that show, and then he changed it to the basketballshow.com. He was one of those guys that would go buy up websites back when websites were first coming out. He would gobble up like 20 or 30 at a time and own the rights to them, and then resell those websites as they became more popular or mainstream. So that was something a lot of people probably may not remember, but the basketballshow.com was very, very popular on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. After then, uh, the radio came about in 2016. Chris Walker, who of course he's from Houston Milby High School, uh, and legendary former NCAA coach for over 2 decades. Now he's a solid uh, this masterpiece with CBS Sports, and he had a radio show in Houston. When it came around the basketball season, he knew that he was going to be on the road and not necessarily be available. So Chris Walker called and asked me to come, and we pitched the idea, and he thought about it, and he was like, I was like, yeah, Chris, I do it. I help you. He had asked me a couple of times before. I just was so busy, so busy during those times. And then so he finally called me. I said, okay, I do it, but only on the one condition. He said, what? The time slot that he wanted was going to be, it was going to go head to head with a guy that is the legend and has fingerprints on most media personalities that come through Houston that's of color. And that was Ralph Cooper. So Ralph Cooper's show was at 5 o'clock slot weekdays. Chris Walker was going to go and overlap that slot. He not living in Houston. Chris really didn't grow up with the understanding of what Ralph Cooper means and meant to a lot of people along the way. Absolutely would not do it. That was a deal breaker. So then Chris changed his mind, and we moved the show which is known as the Chop Shop, to 12 o'clock, and it was 5 days a week, and we were on the AM dial, and it got so much traction that that we ended up going to the FM dial. But before we went to the FM dial, I think about a year in, we decided. I think there was a show called I think the Stooges, the Stuguts or whatever. It was on ESPN. They had the two guys. They had the one
Oh
older
yeah,
guy in the middle. He didn't really say
yeah.
a whole lot. And so me and Chris was thinking we need to get it because now the following year, I was going to be busy, just as busy as he was, or not necessarily knowing I would be able to be there 5 days a week. So we got to reel in somebody else. Who could we get, Chris? And then I thought about it. I said, well, Chris, whoever we get, we need to get somebody that's single. We need to get somebody that's easy on the eyes for the ladies. And we got to get somebody that's what they call now. They call them the term back then was we get somebody that's somewhat of a socialite, meaning that he wasn't necessarily on the internet, but everybody in every party knew who this guy was, and that means we'll be good to go. And ended up being Robert Hatter, and so we pulled Robert Hatter into the chop shop, and and boy, and next thing and he took that thing and to new lengths, and that's he Robert Hatter fell in love with the craft because he's so smart and so dedicated and stuff to a lot of the things that when he gets beamed in, you ain't stopping this dude here. He's gonna read, he's gonna study, he's gonna go at it, and uh, and that's what the product is now in regard to the chop shop. So those are the platforms. And of course, I missed one thing way back, and that was the television component. I mentioned the website. The website came second. Television, I think, came first. May have been. I really believe television came first. Uh, they might have been 1A, 1B. Forgot about that. I've been on television in Houston for 24 years. Todd Freed, he saw me in a couple of gyms, and you could tell after the games if you're paying attention, you can see the body language and the embracement and the willingness to people to talk to people before, during, after games. He noticed me repeatedly, and he came and asked me one night, "Hey, do you mind coming to the studio to film a segment?" And I was like, "When?" He was like, "Tonight." He said it's a live show. It was high school sports live back then. I mean, there was no teleprompter. I had never been on TV in my life. Don't have a journalism degree, and I'm doing all of this stuff in Houston. But I went there, and it's almost like freestyling. It's like we got to talking basketball, and it hit off. It was good. Basically, what I did for Todd, I added a lot of seasoning to the food and to the meal, and that he was trying to prepare. And he's still standing. As a result, I'm still in the studio. We've been to four different television stations along the way, and of course, I'm on now at least 6 days a week in the fourth largest city in the United States.
Sweet, sweet man. I definitely see you on that television screen, chopping it up and giving out that basketball info. Of course, I know you from the basketball scene as
Um,
well, but to see you on the television screen, when I get on social media, I see you on there. Just that representation of Houston is always good to see for sure.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Any way you can amplify parents, amplify names, players, schools, and everybody is not in the gyms watching ball games. This is not everybody's life. This is something. There are a lot of people that watch and try to just get informed of what's going on. And if you can do that uh, without getting compromised, B, without without getting out of bounds with your critique or your evals, and and three, with just being and having a eyeball that's good enough to where people will be able to respect what you're saying sooner than later. and you'll be okay.
Los, what you got, Los? Before I could go all day.
No, I was just gonna ask, when you and Hatter started doing y'all thing,
Mm-hmm.
did it financially, did it make sense for y'all, or was it more so just for the love of the game and just getting y'all brand out there or whatnot?
It's both. It's input equals output in this stuff. And once you get, of course, you get into radio, then um, uh, their expectations are higher because you're number and you can't talk and say certain things because of FAA guidelines and restrictions of what you can say at the radio. One radio station we was at, for example, we was on I think 102.5 FM, and it's a non-profit. So that means you couldn't do call to actions at that particular radio station. I mean, you couldn't make anybody buy. You can read advertisements off, but you couldn't have them to act to command or influence them to buy it. You couldn't say the prices. So it's kind of you have to go and be able to tiptoe through all of that stuff. But yeah, it it can be what you want it to be in this stuff, and because people buy you, and by I mean by people buy you, if you think about companies and you start at home, and you think about people that you support, that you've been supporting for years. So if I'm just starting all over again, I'm doing a small podcast. I'm going to my barber, and we did that at the chop shop. We had a barber who's a celebrity, known as a celebrity barber now. Current cuts with Jason. Hell, he cuts numerous NFL and NBA players' hair and staffers. He came into the studio when we started the chop shop on the FM dial, and actually was giving me a trim while we were live on the air. Little bitty things like that that helped him out. Not that he was already a celebrity barber, but it helped him, and it helped. And then you'd be surprised, your barbers, beauty shop people. If you go to the nail shop, you get to understand this is what I do. Check me out, and I'm coming to you. I'm asking you just to check me out. Where you go eat at? Oh, we love food, so wherever you go eat the most. If they can't believe in you and your ideas, then in a time when you're trying to and you feel like you got a good product, then hell, what am I eating at your place for? There's other good food in the city I can go to, but I believe in you. I want to support you. I want you to win. So you got to feel people that want you to win. Go to your church, people that's in the church house. Let them know what you're trying to do. Guess what? People buy and they're going to invest in you. So that's the thing, Carlos, when you think about that. And you can go and input equals output, but don't you dare expect for anyone's output to be greater than your input when it comes to you.
I bet. Yep.
Getting to basketball, Carlos started out his
Mhm.
first one of his first AAU coaches. Y'all got some connections there. You got into the basketball game, and your first stint was with the same stint Carlos started with. Just break down that relationship a little bit and just let us know why you got into basketball, Miss Hicks, if you don't mind.
Oh man, it was actually in 2000, the summer of 2000, is when I first got introduced to the grassroots basketball scene, and I have my mother's sister's son and my mother's other sister's sons and my mother's brother's son. So that's three first cousins. That would be Ronald Lewis. That would be Ray Johnson and Wayne Johnson. Three first cousins, and Wayne had recruited me into the notion of being able to come and give back by coaching, getting a team of ninth graders, coaching these young guys. It'd be great for the community. It'd be great for as It would be so many great things about it. So he sold me on it, and I agreed to do it. However, this was in the end of January, mid-January, when he approached me with this. So basically, the ninth grade basketball season during those days ended around the first week of February, maybe second week of February, tops. So I didn't have but a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks to go and assemble a team. And I ended up, first thing I did was just ask around. I'm from Cashmere High School. I happened to ask who was the top team in the area, and they told me at the time, Cashmere High School ninth grade team were undefeated. They averaged 100 points a game, and Walter Yates Sr. was the varsity coach. Walter Yates Jr., both are deceased, was the ninth grade coach, his son. So I go over to the school, watch them play, and man, it was fun to watch, you know. And after then, I asked the coach. I said, "Well, coach, how you doing?" Introduced myself. I said, "I heard so much about you, Walter Yates Senior." Talk to the dad. Say, "I would love to have you starting five. I got a team gonna give back to the community. I really want this because I'm from this school. We were at the school after one of the games. I said, I'll take you starting five. He said, we don't have a starting five. We got a starting eight. So I had to take those guys. And then once I got those eight, and I told him, I said, well, I just need three things, man. I'm not give me a press breaker, give me your inbound play, and give me your press. I can figure it out from there. All I needed was three things. And because you're not running a whole lot of plays, and I didn't know them guys and see where one was significantly better than the other. We don't get out there and play some ball and see what happens after that. So we go. Now I got to find some more height. I had a 6'5" and 6'6" on that team, which was Big Goose and Lonnie Weiss. Lonnie ended up going to Prairie View. Then I had Clyde Pride on that team, Terrence, TJ, Jackson, and on that squad. I mean, it was some good fun because those guys knew each other. They played. They've been winning since they were at Key Middle School together, most of them. So then somebody kept telling me about this one kid over at Booker T. Washington High School that I need to go and see. And so I missed one game. Then I realized ain't but one game left in the regular season now. There's no play there. Well, there was playoffs, but back then only the top ninth grade team from each zone made it. So I go to this game. Booker T. Washington was playing somebody. It didn't matter who they was playing. I heard this kid, I had to go and see him. I get to the game. I'm there on time. I can tell who his folks is. I'm watching. Kid, I get there about halftime. And yes, right at 40 at the half. And that game he finished with about 65. And but of course it was garbage time. The team they playing, but he just stayed in and just kept making jumpers. The way he was just, you could see special. Once somebody see somebody that's special, I didn't know what special was. I just know this dude here was way better than everybody else on the court. He was way better than everybody I saw from the Cashmere team that I just saw. And them dudes were undefeated. I just had seen them a week or so before. So that ended up being Tack Minor. Funny thing, true story on this Tack Minor on this particular day. The midway through the fourth quarter. Well, it's about 2 minutes left. In walks John Urey. He's with the Houston Superstars at the time. There's only two sneaker-sponsored programs in Greater Houston. The Houston Superstars, which were Adidas, they wore blue, and of course they were blue and white, and you had the Houston Hoops. They were red and white. So you had our blue and you had the red in H-Town. And John walks in. He's in there for a kid named Scotty Lott. He's a 10th grader that was playing JV at Booker T. Washington. John walks, and he's so fascinated on the bleachers. He's walking by, and he's with his walk. He doesn't even look at the court. don't even look at the court. He don't realize. And I'm like, and I thought he was coming in for tag minor. He's shaking hands and hobnobbing and grandstanding. It's about 30 seconds left in the game now. He still ain't recognized and look over and realize that's tag minor or to discover him. Because there was no way that I was going to, if John Urie had known about tag minor, there was nothing that I would have been able to do to be able to lure him and influence him to come play with me at that time. And that's a true story. And so after the game over, I went over and talked to the Tag's parents, and we reeled him in. He ended up playing with the Hayes Select, but Wayne Johnson, Ray passed away last year. Our cousin Ronald, he's a pastor in real estate, and of course Wayne, he does a lot with a lot of international kids, and to date he's still involved slightly in basketball, but he's still involved and know what's going on. He has in Houston, in the Houston area that is.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say, big make sure we pay respects to Ray, man. Rest in peace to Ray Johnson. He was a
yeah,
mentor
man.
for me back then, growing up. He would, coach, help me, deal with Wayne. Me and Wayne used to bump heads when I was a kid coming up. So Ray, mild mannered, cool, calm, and collective, man. He used to tell me how to deal with Wayne at times. So he been knowing me since a pup. So make sure we show our
Yeah,
respects to Ray, man. Solid dude, man. Rest in peace for sure.
yeah. Ray
Yeah,
Ray
that
was
was
good. Ray was
family.
very, very, very good people, man. He's more than a
Yes,
first
sir.
cousin. He was a cool cat, man. Smart cat. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, man, it hurt to see him go last year. And I just, I spoke at his funeral last year, and then just this past weekend, uh, I spoke at my other first cousin's funeral, which is Wayne Johnson's little brother. Uh, Charles Freeman, know him as Skinny, and Skinny laid to rest this past weekend. So I got a chance, of course, fellowship and see family. I'm gonna tell you one thing: you guys don't understand that Hayes Select program. It was an independent program, and they Wayne and my cousins they raised the money for the team to go and make a few trips out of town. For example, I mentioned John Urie with the Houston Superstar. He had an Adidas deal back then with an unlimited product that was coming in. Hell, we went and played at DePaul University in the Mac Irvin Classic, right back in summer of 2001, and we flew. John Urie, they drove all the way to Chicago. We flew. We made it there on plane to and back. Wayne, went and got the money and funded, got the program funded. The star player on that Hayes Select team at that age, at that year, was Lawrence Roberts. So he was the signature high school player for Hayes Select. And understand something, man. They had a lot of other players that was good. A lot of other guys that you guys know. I can go roll off names, but I'm just saying
Man,
the guy
hey,
that,
Miss East, man, roll out a couple of them names, man. Roll out a
man,
couple of them high select names, man. Them veterans over there, man.
well, of course you had Kenneth Henderson from Westfield High School.
He
You
really
had
from A-Leaf. Yeah, he really from A-Leaf. Yeah, he moved out there, but he from the SWAT.
okay, and you had Jermaine Hawkins from West Aldine Westfield. Jermaine Hawkins was a lefty, man. He was hard to deal with. You had it was guard heavy back then. That class, in class of 2001. Class 2001 was very strong. So guys, then class 2002, you had some guys, speaking of A-Leaf, you had one guy that his life changed a little bit because he ended up going to, I think, Southern Mississippi. That was Sam Bird. Sam Bird played for Hayes Select.
Spice name.
Yeah.
you know, and but it was a lot of talent, man. This thing, understand, back then, the city was so potent with talent, and you had talent that always helps to have talent, but you had hungry talent. That's something
Right.
different. And then you had different guys that a lot of people didn't really. It was a respect level amongst the guys that had the program. So the independent programs back then, of course, I mentioned Houston Hoops, Houston Superstars. They were the top of the pyramid. But our independent teams, we had about 5 of them that would whoop ass. They would win, place, or show. They would be able to play on Sunday mid-morning to maybe Sunday afternoon. And back then, you didn't play nothing but tournaments back then. That all this old showcase stuff, wasn't no super pools back then. You went and you just played and played. But Hey Select, you had the junior hardballs with Rory Cole, right? You had the Houston Lynx with Dr. Shooty, who's passed away. That was the
Yes, sir.
program that Emeka Okafor came up through before he ended up joining Carlos Hurt with the Houston Hoops back then. And you also had the Houston Select with another guy's deceased. We do understand how that program came about, but still, it doesn't take away from not a single kid that put their uniform on because you still got a ball. Houston Select, David Salinas, that program there had guys that made it to the NBA. And
They was Adidas too, though, wasn't they, Hicks? They was Adidas, wasn't
he had what they would know as a friendly deal with Adidas, meaning that he used his own money, and we understand if you read the book backwards with David Salinas, he didn't really have a deal. He got it. He ended up buying his way into the room, so he was in the meetings. You were in the room at the time, and it didn't matter. You understand? It didn't matter because it wasn't his money. As we understand how he ended up committing suicide back in, I think, 2012-ish. But those I just mentioned, Hey Select, Junior Hardballers, Houston Lynx, Houston Select. Man, I know I'm missing somebody now, and excuse me if anybody I just missed, but I'm just freestyling these names. These are just some of the independent teams that's from Houston. That was, man, I'm talking about talent. And it just so happened that 2001 is when Carlos came out. Class of 2001 was so stacked. Just stacked on the top end, very, very stacked. I'll say arguably the deepest class in the history of Greater Houston basketball in regards to, I don't like going all the way back because you can ruffle too many feathers and there's no way to go and prove it because a lot of people back in the older days, they didn't have the luxury of being recruited by certain schools or getting exposure to certain schools. So therefore, a lot of those guys went, NAIA but NAIA was a whole different perception of going to UT Pan Am or going to Paul Quinn or going all back in the old days, man. A lot of guys, that's all they knew, and the people that was the high school coaches, they are the one who boxed off a lot of the other schools to let some of those coaches get those kids to keep those pipelines going to those HBCUs back in the days. And a lot of people don't realize, it may not be always good, but I get it and I understand. And like I mentioned about the respect level. Wayne Johnson didn't try to steal none of Rory Coleman's kids. Dr. Shooty, he picked his kids. He was a dentist. He picked his kids because he paid for everything. Certain type of kids couldn't play for Dr. Shooty with the Houston Lynx. So Dr. Shooty didn't go, and once you picked the team, he wasn't out there trying to steal you away and call you in the middle of the night. You wanted to play for him, maybe you might call him and try to solicit, but it ain't happening. So then now David Salinas, he wasn't, once he picked your team, that's what I'm saying, you're going to recruit against some guys, but they ain't trying to come and steal your players like that. Now, Houston Superstars, Houston Hoops, it's a different story because they got paid from the sneaker conglomerates to go and get the best players. They were obligated to go and find. So that's why John Urich would always try to go and solicit players, no matter who they played for. That's what you paid to do. Al Pastner would make a phone call, or some of his coaches would make phone calls to get it done. So that's one of the things, man, back in those days, and you guys, a lot of guys, class of 2001 was stacked. Class of 2002 shifted more toward the DFW. They owned 2002. We get them that. Chris Bosh, D. Hopkins, D. Will, Bracy Wright, all those guys, 2002. But boy, we had the water bubbling down in 2003, and we ran with 2003. I could almost make a case one day. You know, I put some good ice in my cup, and I can make a case for 2003 versus 2001. I really could. I'm telling you now.
For Houston, right?
For Greater Houston, for the Greater Houston area. You know, you had the anchors for that class. You got to realize now. You know, even though one guy that came in, even though he only came for 1 year, yeah, Oak Hill used to count kids for 1 year when they come over there. But we had, remember, Von Wafer was in Greater Houston. He was a McDonald's All-American. Von Wafer.
Out that Kingwood area, something like that.
He went to Harris Christian in Cleveland, Texas, where Jerome Tang was the coach.
Okay.
You had Indy Eby, Kendrick Perkins, Cartier Martin. That's 4 guys that played in the NBA. Not 4 guys who signed G League deals or played Summer League deals. That's 4 guys who played in the NBA in 2003. Then you got guys that played for the Olympics more than one time, like Michael Ume was in that class. Then you had some studs. Lanny Smith, who's the owner of Actively Black. It wasn't for injuries. Of course, injuries derailed him. And Lanny had everything to make him a pro. He had the height, he had the heart, he had the skill set, but he just couldn't keep that body healthy enough because you gotta remain healthy. Tag Minor was in that class. Dude, we had some fire in H-Town in 2003. So as we go through 2001, everybody looking at H-Town, because at first it really started in 2000, Carlos, you know that. Before that year, you left in 2001. You went over to Louisville Male High School.
Really, it started 9-8 with Rashard. Really?
I'm talking about when you turned,
yeah.
I'm talking about when you were on the 17 U's with the Houston Hoops, and that stuff, and that you know, because of Basahan and all that right coming right before you at Elsie, but that during that time in 2000, people around the country were saying that Houston was lucky. They say like John Urin, superstar. Oh, they got lucky. Willow Ridge. I'm sorry that is. Oh, they were lucky. That's what they were when they won the slam dunk to the beach. That was a tournament in Delaware. Ryan and Courtney took the Willow Ridge up there. They won. They came back the next year, won it again. And that next year they won it again was the year that 2001 class. And that was the Christmas of 2000. So that summer of 2000 was that summer that everything was jumping. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can ask anybody, and that's the thing. The greatest, the best grassroots basketball team ever suited up, grassroots from Houston, you know, in the 17U, to make this simple. You know what team that was?
Who was that?
The Houston Hoops. In summer of 2000. Listen, they had, check this out. A lot of people ain't gonna forget, they totally gonna forget this. Carlos probably would have forgot it. I'm gonna stop it because I don't want you to go wrong. I don't want you to drive the car off the road on this right here, Carlos. you had, watch this. How I end this off. First of all, they was kicking ass already. Carlos hurt. You had Stanley Osunu. You had Marcus Spears. You had Michael Rhodes, who went to Ole Miss.
Chris Rhodes.
I said Michael Rhodes. Chris Rhodes went to Ole Miss. And you had Emeka Okafor. And you had Darryl Mason, right?
Yeah.
And then you had
Dante Stiggers.
Dante Stiggers went to Southern Mississippi by the A-Leaf. Go on, tell me where he's from. Matter of fact, Bobby, you tell me where Dante from. So
he's from A-Leaf Hastings. Dante Stiggers.
So
But
check
go
this out.
ahead, continue, because you finna say
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. That team. People first, oh, that team wasn't all that. Yeah, but you didn't notice about this. A little known fact is at the end of the year of that summer, that team picked up two players. That was the very last jersey that they ever wore in grassroots basketball. And one of them was TJ Ford. See, people didn't know TJ Ford wore Houston Hoops jersey. I know this. And Lawrence Roberts, two
Yes,
NBA
sir.
players joined that team.
That's a fact.
And
We
they
wouldn't have
kicked
won without
ass.
him. We
They
wouldn't have
won
won without
first
him either.
place. It won at the buzzer. At the buzzer.
Yeah,
They won
yeah.
first place in the Nike, I think it was the Hoop Summit or whatnot. Back then, they won first
Now it
place.
was that global challenge, Hicks.
The Global
They had the
Challenge. Global
overseas
Challenge.
people over there too. The
Yes.
Russia, Croatia, Yugoslavia, all them was over there. Yeah, we won the
Yes.
whole. We was what you call it, world champs. World
World champ.
champs. Yeah,
That team,
yeah,
I say it
yeah,
again,
yeah.
let it soak in. That team was phenomenal, unstoppable. They already was good. But when you had Lawrence Roberts, and then you had TJ, he reunited with Carlos Hurt. Remember, they hadn't played together since the Hay Select days of the Saluki Jazz back in the day, back in the trap. They back together. And it was just so bad that people, it was so unfortunate that people in Texas did not get to experience seeing that one time, just seeing it. And I know that was kind of magical. Take us through that, man. What's your thoughts on that event, Carlos? I know you remember that.
We got. I forgot one though too. My dog Calvin Watkins, Coach Watkins' son, Coach Watson's son. Coach
Watson.
Watson's son, my bad.
Yeah,
Watson, they
yeah,
used to coach at Texas A&M. Yeah,
yes. Melvin Watson.
yeah,
Melvin Watson.
yeah,
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 sure.
yeah.
He
His
was on
son
that
played on
far.
there too. Nah, but what
Yeah,
you said something though, because boys don't know we was struggling out of town that summer though, because we was only like 7, 8 deep.
yeah.
So we had to make do what we could. So when we made that tournament, the superstars was done playing. They didn't have no more games. So, they had to run it by Yuri. Yuri flew out there and everything. Yuri went for to miss nothing. He went for to miss nothing. Do you hear me? So look, this is a funny fact too. The first game, TJ come out there. Our jerseys is all red, you know what I'm saying, or, white, but they red, black, and white, you know what I'm saying? So we got the away jerseys on all red. TJ come out there in some all blue and white T-Max. Y'all remember the Adidas T-Max? You know what I'm saying? This is a Nike event. You understand what I'm saying? TJ come out there in some all blue. Them T-Max, man, they was all blue on one side and all white on the other. Man, night and next day, at halftime, they had TJ some J's on his feet, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They weren't playing no games. Yes, sir.
Then he went to
Yeah, man.
He went to
Put
UT and
these
kept
on,
wearing
man.
them J's. At the University of
Yeah,
Texas, he kept wearing them J's at UT.
yeah,
and,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
man, that
They
was a good
gave me some
time, bro.
Space Jams, man. Yeah, that was the good old days. Yeah, man. Out there in Portland. Go ahead, B.
Yeah, but
Six, I,
and
I
you,
want to ask you. No, go ahead, Miss Six. I'm sorry.
what do you just think about the notion they had to be convinced because they understand something. The perception of like like you had the haves and the have-nots, and so the Houston Hoops was ran by Hal Passner, and a lot of people just didn't want. They you hated what they had. You didn't hate Hal Passner, but you hated the Houston Hoops for what they were and for their dominance and because uh, they would basically pluck away most of everybody's kids in here and there at the time, and guess what? And go win with them. And so for the city, for first of all, Wayne Johnson had to convince the Roberts family, which is Mr. Lawrence Roberts Sr. and his wife, to go and do it. Then John Uri had to be convinced, of course, with Pop Ford and Miss Mary Ford had to be convinced to go and do it as well. And but it was for the greater good of the city. And
Absolutely.
this was without the internet. And that helped because when people was saying the city of Houston, we were lucky just 2 summers ago. They were lucky when Willow Ridge won it. And then you don't realize what was happening. It was almost like a renaissance for Texas. You had Willow Ridge, who was the number one public school in the country. Oak Hill ended up number one on the USA Today. But I said Willow Ridge was the number one public school in the country at the end of that season. Well, the next year, guess who was the number one team in the country? No, overall, no matter what, it was Dallas Lincoln. Dallas Lincoln was number one overall in the country.
Yeah.
And then you had Beaumont Ozan was in the top 5 in the country. So we kept going from that. In 2003, we just kept rolling with potency. Then 2004, you had a couple of other McDonald's All-Americans coming through the chute, which was Daniel Gibson, Jawan McClellan. Remember, that was during the time Hal had started that Academy National Invitational back then. And the Academy National Invitation then it ended up turning into the Houston Birth Nation. But that academy, Daniel Gibson, who people in Houston knew, he was the Fundy baby. Fundy Recreation Center, James Clayton, the Houstonians. Then he played for another team that was out with Westfield, him and Big Doug Smith, the original Big Doug, and Big Kellen Hurd, all those big fellas who ended up playing in the NFL. Those guys there came and with Juwan, and that was something special. Remember, Juwan played with David Salinas. His parents had to be convinced to let's put you. The city needs y'all in the backcourt together to make something dynamic. Some people need to play by themselves. If that's what their mission is, and they're trying to go down a certain road. But if you're trying to really get to the top, and you're a guard, you're gonna have to win, and you're gonna have to win a lot. And the way that you can win when you get out there in them circuits like that, you playing against guys that may not be as greater than you, but that other guy, his guy on the side of him is that much greater than your guy on the side of you. So it's gonna balance itself out. So that's how this stuff, man. A lot of times in this city had gotten to a point where a lot of people don't think about the greater good. If you can sacrifice, if you can negotiate something to whereas hell, one of them sneaker teams, they give you some reversible jerseys to just let a kid come play with you one time. You're not getting a sneaker deal. Not with that outlet. Not over this guy who already has a deal. They're not gonna move him out of the way because you got some little Johnny kid. It ain't happening like that. I don't give a damn what nobody told you. Unless you're gonna have to have you would have to have a bona fide pro. And that you ain't calling the pro, that everybody else is calling the pro, for you to even have a chance of replacing somebody on the grassroots circuit on one of the powerful grassroots circuits in today's time. So I just want to get it out there, man, how a lot of this thing is thrust a button and how the sacrifices was made and how people came together for the greater good of the city during the time where it's very rare now. Very, very, very rare that people are willing to do that nowadays.
Well, I've been sipping on this good old lemonade, Mr. Hicks. So I'm gonna ask you.
That's what I got.
The city of Houston ain't what it used to be as far as summer basketball, the tournaments, this and that. What you think got us away from that, and what it's gonna take to get us back to where, I'm gonna give for instance. When I started this, I was blind. Like I said, it was toward the end of the season when I first heard about one of your events at Yakes, and we went to that shit. It was like, damn, what we been doing, right? And then from then, the next year, because this was the end, you did that last event at Yakes High School. I forgot the name of it, but I'm sure you were
back to school.
Crazy. That shit, it was crazy. That's when we played Kendrick Davis, and you might not even remember. You scheduled us up with Kendrick Davis, and he whooped the shit out of us, right? But the exposure, getting out, I've never been so excited to get my ass whooped because it was a different level of basketball that was able to teach the kids. the atmosphere was crazy. I seen Carson Edwards them playing. I think maybe D Fox or some shit. You had like it was crazy, right?
Yeah.
So the next year we hear like, well, he started off returning with the icebreaker. We go to the icebreaker and it was the same excitement. It was the same atmosphere. It was like no other event was even talked about during icebreaker. It hands down. Um, how do we get it back to that point? Because now, even as a AAU director, when you go to Houston, you think about the tournaments. It just don't have that same feel as when I started, and it's just my opinion. Um, what? How did it get away from that, and how do we get it back?
Oh man, first, how do we? How did it get away? I think once again you got to have talent,
Mm,
and just so happened during the span of a few years, uh, DFW ended up having cultivating or possessing an abundance, consistent abundance of talent that came through their pipes. Now, the thing is, we've always had talent, but then the talent is an art. It has to be. You can't. You can't identify or you can't claim that every kid that's in the ninth grade that can go and dunk is a pro. You can't go and say this dude's the best right then until he has to go through the trial and error. And what happens is in this city, once the amount of grassroots sneaker sponsored teams began to increase, that gave more people they gave them a seat in the certain rooms. The room may not be equivalent, but you still a magna cum laude, you still VIP. VIP at every club ain't the same, but you still behind the velvet rope. So it put some guys behind velvet ropes who had never been there before. And so
mm,
what happens now is these guys, everybody got to have five starters, 8 to 10 players on the team. Well, here we go now. We go, you get your five, and then you go and you're claiming that your five is all Americans. Everybody's saying they got the all American. Everybody's saying so that means now we got more people that's saying, Bobby Benjamin, you're the best in the world. You're better than Carlos Hurt. He just getting all of the praise because he's plays with the Nike team. And so what happens indirectly, while you're trying to uplift your player, you shitting on another player. And what happens is those words will get back in some cases. Ain't no secrets in grassroots basketball. No matter how much you think it is, it ain't no secrets because everybody got a price. Remember that. So what happens, people know now. So that means now guys start looking at each other salty. Guys start looking at each other. So I'm never going to support your kids because you ain't supporting me. And now parents saying you calling them in the middle of the night, trying to get my kid or the kid who plays for your team to attract them away. This is how it got away from us. That was respect. But then a different layer of people came in as the other guys got older, and there was no rules written on the wall, and there was nobody to say, it ain't the streets. Ain't nobody to go and check you or to check in with. So anybody now can come in and saying, I'm media. Anybody now can start going on social media and saying, you know what, here's a list. Then you had a fad. The people made a mockery and showed how much of a mockery it was. You had at least three different people who came and created ghost accounts on Twitter back then. and start doing rankings and talking about and uplifting kids. And other people that knew those guys knew they were just they were bullshitting. They didn't even exist. They were just doing it just to prove how stupid some people had gotten in this basketball. And then you come to find out, you get to talking, other cities had guys doing the same thing. Now people are willing to praise 15-year-old kids for their ability to evaluate back in them days, because you didn't want to just give the respect where it was due here and there. And once you start not giving the respect, then that's a way of devaluing. So people would start to devalue certain things that for the greater good of the city would attract those out of town teams and those out of town media guys that a lot of guys needed. Otherwise, they're not going to see your kids play unless you get to Sunday afternoon. And this is what happened. So now there's nowhere to go in the city where they're going to get that and play them. So now people start thinking, man, we got to go to Dallas then. And you don't realize Dallas will come to you if all y'all saying we ain't going. Dallas going to get tired of beating up on each other. You know what they going to do? They going to bring their ass back down there and play you. You know why? They do it in high school basketball. Don't all of the Dallas teams come to Houston? Regularly, year after year. If you want to see one of them star guys from DFW, their high school team going to be in Houston. Guaranteed. The public schools I'm talking about and the masses. Right. So the blueprint is there. And no matter who it may be, that's the thing. You have to revalue things that are commodities in your community. You don't devalue them. And you got to realize, black people, there's a thing that we tend to give each other a life sentence, right, for jaywalking. We give a guy a life sentence for jaywalking, but people across the street, they can do whatever the hell they want to do to you, and you just gonna say, "Oh man, you did me wrong," and you're gonna go back and support them with your dollars, with your economic dollars, again and again. But then we gonna give each other life sentence, and you at the end of the day, most of it becomes the frustration becomes, Bobby, because everybody feels they may have that one kid that should have been ranked higher than what he was, and he just wasn't. And everybody has that one kid that just didn't get the scholarships that you might have thought he should have got, and it didn't happen that way. But at the end of the day, my firm belief for most people in life, for the masses, eventually they will all end up where they belong. Remember that. Eventually. Mm-hmm. And some people got to go to the left sometimes in order to save your life. And that's the thing. If I don't go to the left, I'm not in this basketball. And that's a whole different type of sermon. That's why I couldn't get compromised in this basketball thing. I couldn't allow myself to get compromised. And by doing so, I was able to sleep better. Messed off on a whole bunch of bags of money now. Don't get it twisted now. But I didn't allow myself to get compromised because it was one thing back then, there wasn't a lot of people doing it. So it wasn't like I ain't nothing to measure myself off of. And a lot of the guys in the mainstream media, they didn't take bribes on the wholeheartedly like that. So from what I understood, you're not supposed to do that. And I didn't want to do it anyway. So then became I guess a block for whereas people started coming into the grassroots sector under the guise of media, and they would end up accepting or get compromised. Get compromised meaning that somebody from a program can can gain influence to you, and it becomes blatantly obvious to most people if they're paying attention to you. So that's what compromised me, meaning that the integrity of it has been flipped. You're supposed to be for this, but you're doing that. And guess what? When that started to happen, people got to see it, and they see that, and they can tell that certain ink was going towards certain kids that really wasn't that good. Certain ranking levels going toward kids that wasn't no even Division I prospects. And it ain't the rank, it's the range. Range. Meaning that if you just say top 10 in the country, now people say top 10, top 25, top 50, top 100. Those are different ranges. If you in the top 25, know what? That means you in a range where you should be in consideration for the McDonald's game. If you are ranked in the top 20, that don't mean you're gonna make it. But if you're in the top 25 on a couple of polls, you in the right range. Have you ever been to a concert and you go to the concert and they say, hey, what's the last concert you went to, Bobby? Last concert.
Shit. Want to say like Young Jeezy. I've been to comedy shows, but the last concert was probably the Young Jeezy White Fest.
Where you sit at?
Scarface. I think Scarface's birthday might have been after that. Scarface 50th show.
Okay. Well, that was at. Where did you sit at?
Sure, I had some pretty good seats at the top. I try to stay at. I don't like to be too close because I like to stay out the scenery. You know what I'm saying? I might have one or two many drinks, so I try to get good seats, but still in the duck off.
Okay, so your range you had some good seats, very good seats.
Yeah, definitely good seats.
So I ain't got to even flip it down and double down, Carlos. Think about the last concert you went to. Most people, when you say, "Man, I went to that show," they say, "Where you sit at?" Man, I was on the floor. That's a range. I was on the front row. That's a range. Or I was backstage. I had VIP pass, all access. That's a range. When is the last time? Have you ever sit on the front row of a concert? And when is the last time that anybody asked you what seat did you sit in on the front row?
Never.
Never. So that means you see what's more. Front row is the range. If we start accepting and realizing that with the kids, as long as they on the front row, you got a chance. You get, as long as you're on the flow. It don't matter if you in section G, section F. Ain't nobody. I'm on the flow. But if we've been conditionally, it's almost like institutionalized. People thinking I got to be number 5, got to be number 2, got to be number 3, because we sneaker, we got to have this. But man, as long as you're in the right range, it's easier to tell when a kid ain't in the right range. The rank, that's going to change. That range ain't never supposed to change unless a kid as they get older. You know what I'm saying? They get better, get stronger. But you just think what I'm saying. Carlos Hurt was always going to be top 10. He probably was top 10 in 9th grade. He got better. Other kids got better. Dante Stickles probably was top 10 in the 9th grade. Some people going to pass him up. But the range, that means you got to extend this range because they got a lot of high majors now. He's having to go to Southern Mississippi because he just ran out of time. And people didn't realize because they wasn't paying enough attention to Dante Stickles because they was overly paying attention to Carlos Hurt. And so they had to be really evaluating and see what Dante Stickles was. It wasn't no joke what he was doing. But then he's at A-Leaf Hastings High School, which was overshadowed by A-Leaf Elsick High School, even though they were very, very much good arch rivals back then. But that's how it always gonna be a kid that get overlooked in the sense. But the range, that's what I want to get that part so people can understand. And that's why to this day, I no longer do rankings. Don't do rankings no more. I ain't did rankings since 2024. I put them all in alphabetical order. And then guess what? I can go from there and I can tell a person if you want to know the range. That's one range within itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the flow seats. If you want to know who's sitting on my front row, I can tell you. If we can have a sidebar conversation or in a public conversation. I can tell anybody we want the front row out of this group of kids. Is no, but I'm not. I don't. It's more harm than good when we're trying to refine our identity of talent in the area to anoint kids. Because what happens is there are kids that think that their number 3 ranking in the city is the same as number 3 ranking in 2001 class, and it ain't. You see them coming from now? It's a bell curve on this stuff. You had T.J. Ford, Daniel Ewing, Carlos Hurt. That's 3 right there in that class of Carlos' classes, and you know that's 3 out the gates. Emeka Okafor was in that class, right? John Lucas, the third, was in that class. John Lucas played in the NBA. You had guys that went on the we can't say what they gonna do and what they gonna be, but guys that were averaging 30. He was averaging 30 points a game in high school, while he was on the side of the neck over John Lucas was in class 2001. He wasn't in the top 3. He
Ronnie Price.
He came off the bench.
Price is another one.
What'd you say?
Ronnie Price is another one.
Ronnie Price.
Ronnie Price, I'm talking about players that made the league that, wasn't in that range per se at that time.
That's like 4 guys that made the NBA that wasn't
Lawrence made the league. Lawrence made the league too.
Yes,
Lawrence
I was going to say Lawrence Roberts' name.
Yeah.
And so now you got to see. So now what happens is now people think just because they rank number 5 in Greater Houston that it's the equivalent. The talent ain't the same. It ain't the equivalent. If you think about it, if you kind of lost, think about your class, your academic rankings. Know what that means? Think about somebody has to be the valedictorian, somebody got to be the salutatorian, somebody got to be in the National Honor Society, somebody got to sit on that stage. But the GPA ain't the same. Even though you got a 3, you might have a 4.0, but your all 4.0s ain't the same. It ain't the same. And so that's the thing. And a lot of people, you cannot persuade them or get them to understand differently, because they would take that number 3 and try to shove it down people's throat and say, well, my kid number 3 in Houston, number 5 in Houston, that means University of Texas must want it. They got the offer. No, they don't. You're going to get embarrassed. When your kid get to them schools, you're going to get embarrassed. And then he ain't going to play. Now you got to make up all these excuses. We had the number 1 player in Houston two seasons ago, class of 2024. That young man decided to go to a Power 4 school and basically has played very, very, very little. And he's been there 2 years. And so that means the bell curve. So that means other guys are coming in there playing more than him. He was the top dog in our city, went to state, had all the street cred, but people that saw him knew it was something missing. You knew it. We just tried to force it. He going to go here, going to play in the SEC, it's going to feel good, but at the end of the day, we got to be able to know and know better so that we can do better by the city and by these kids in regard to that. That's the thing. Now, and the last question you asked, Bobby, is how do we get it back? I think I kind of answered them both in one, and I reiterate that You have to find something of substance in events to put value in your city. It's like what clubs jumping. When people gonna say we go hang out at a bar or something, and everybody tell everybody, man, the food jumping over here, man, it's jumping over here. We gonna go here. We valuing it, and we have to go and stand on it and say, look now, we're giving you value. We know your food good, but a lot of people ain't eating it. They going other places to eat. It just don't make sense for a person to go drive 50 miles to get a chicken basket or a shrimp basket, and we know you make them good right now. They just, for some reason or another, we gonna get. That's what has to happen in the city, and it ain't no tricks to it. Like I said, it ain't about me at all. It's just about if the city wants, they have to identify something. Once again, what's the signature event that's attracting? And then that means now we have to go and get small businesses to go and that are watching the shows like this one to go and say, you know what? I want some of that audience. I want some of those basketball kids. So if people start treating your grassroots basketball programs as voting blocks, because these guys that are on 17 and under teams, they will be registered. They should be registered to vote. Every grassroots coach in the country that has a 17 and under team, if they have players on there that's 17 years old or older, you should make sure they get registered to vote. Now you have a voting block. You can go and tell a person that's running for city council, a person that's running for office or justice of the peace or whatever. Hey man, I can let you talk to my team. I can let you meet these guys. You say the right things, these guys gonna be voting. Next time you run for office, they're gonna be voting. We got to find creative ways to value the commodities of basketball players within this youth sports. Other people see them as commodities, but it's greater than that, because once you teach a person and that they have value, then people are going to go and put money up under you. They're going to invest in you. They already know they can trick with you all day because they know. They've already been told. Go give him a banana, he gonna dance. That's the thing. That's how it can go and get better, and it can get greater later in the city.
Let me ask you this: what's your opinion? Because I kind of hear you hitting on this. And I myself, I won't lie. I've been a part of circus every year for the last 5, 6+ years. But I will say, and the people can look up they financial records for this. When it comes July, no matter what circuit I've been on personally with my 17U team, I always stay in Texas because my personal experience is, man, we travel out here, but it's not the same media, it's not the coverage, it's not the love, and it's not the same justice for the kids. Some people are traveling on these second tier circuits or whatever the case may be. Just what's your thoughts of spending all this money? Because I hear you say this all the time, and I listen. I might not call you and be like, "Hey, I heard what you said. I'm finna, take your advice." But from afar, shit, I listen and I take the advice that makes sense. So if you go look at my track record, every July I'm in Texas. Like I'm not traveling to the South Carolinas, all this. And for one, I'm not on Peace Jam. I'm not part of the EYBL. How much justice would it do, like when you had the GMI? At one point, like even when we had Jesse, like you said, you got guys sometimes might be big. We sent Jesse to a bigger platform because we thought that was better for him. You know what I'm saying? But like the GMI, all that shit was like it was no other tournament that we were talking about outside of these at the times in Houston. Now it seems like no matter how good the tournament is in Houston, or no matter how much history you have, how much college connection you have. Is like it's more important to go out of town to a Puma, Adidas, second tier, new whatever the circuit might be, second tier. Is that more for the AAU director and them promoting the brand, or for the kids? In your opinion, because I know my opinion for sure.
I mean, it's more nowadays. It's more monkey see, monkey do. So it's more the directors are. It's twofold. The directors, many of them feel they have to put certain things on their schedule to make the parent or the kid want to come play with them. So that's where the tricking comes in. So that means if you got to get them tricking, you're gonna lose them for the lack of tricking. And that's one of the things where I look at it as saying, well, we got to go over here. We're gonna go over here. It's gonna be this. And people that know, it's like, okay, when you go over there, and I always just tell people, and it would be embarrassing. People would, I said, when you get there, take a video. What they call FaceTime now. Do a FaceTime and hold it around the room so we can see how many coaches gonna be at your game. So really, you paying to go watch other games. You're paying to go there because you got a buddy on one of those main teams, and you got this buddy gonna be there, and y'all just gonna hang out because you making the trip. You going where you going? You going near? Oh, okay, we're gonna go here, and that's why a lot of teams end up going to the same place. You know what happened? I just talked about it. That means you gave it value. So you gave it value to go get a shrimp basket. I'm gonna get a shrimp basket with you because man, you're gonna drink something while we getting a shrimp basket. So that part, people got to a point where everybody couldn't get through the door. I always give analogies, and everybody they call them Hicksisms. I give them all out. Call those. Check this out. I give a good one. Let's say the club jumping, and you come in, and me and you, Carlos, we finna go because Bobby over at the Scarface party, and he already up in there. So we gonna meet him over there. He telling us, man, it's jumping over here. So we gonna come. I ain't hear you.
Now I'm just talking shit.
Okay. No, we couldn't hear you at first because you was muted. Now, so let's say me and you roll up, but we gonna go and tell us to come on through the back door. We go to the back door. They got the guy at the door, right? Sometimes he got to get one of us in, and then the other one just got to hold tight. You gonna come back and get us? You gotta have faith in it. Everybody ain't gonna be able to get in that door at the same time. That's one of the problems. Everybody think that they VIP. It ain't hurt nothing, and that's the thing. I don't know why she's checking up. But understand. My point is, we can go, and we got to be able to get people in. Everybody want us to get them in. We trying, but everybody ain't gonna get in. And if nobody don't get you in because here's what happened. You done told the next person that you guarantee they gonna get in. You see? If you done told Carlos that you guaranteeing me and him gonna get in this back door, and one of us don't get in, Carlos for to go back home and tell everybody. Now you done looked out for him at every other concert, but this one right here, he ain't getting that a C scarf.
You ain't shit because you ain't do it.
Ain't shit, and the flies know it. That's what happens.
Well,
You get a life sentence.
Yeah. This the problem. This is my question, not even a problem. Well, I've been to the GMI, and I started Extra Eyes, and I remember you say people start the little baby media service. I started Extra Eyes because I was paying money out my check every week because kids staying at my house for a team. When I started the team, we had a team. Like they say, the right with no organization. It was a team that I was really paying for. Jerome Bracey would pay for tournaments out of his pocket too, but we paid for this. So I know when I started the media, it was to help kids get to college. We didn't charge them nothing to come to these events. We bring college coaches in. It was kids from multiple organizations. for free to play in front of a college coach at the school. All this was free. We paying college coaches. We're not paying. I'm sorry. We bringing them in. We buying them lunch, and like we just making it accessible for them. Like, you know what I'm saying? So look at these kids. They got some kids, some eyes, some exposure. But as far as tournament wise, as a director, if it wasn't a GMI or the Gasso, none of my kids and my recruitment came. It all came from GMI or Gasso in Texas. Just to be honest, I've been to a lot of circuits. By the time we got to the circus, I met college coaches from coming to your events like the Gassos that I connected with, got their numbers. So, hey, we on this circuit. I got a player you might want to see. Can you come watch him? But that typically never transferred to the offers, but the Texas events did. When Jesse left us, he played with Curtis Stacks. I can't remember the name, but you know Curtis Scipio, Team Stack. I want to say, right. I remember when he left us, that was at the GMI, and he had offers for he left us. I called you. He had the first offer was from UTRGV. Hey Hicks, this was what's going on. Boom, boom, boom. You say, hey man, that's all for tell them to accept. This how I know. This how I learned fake and real offers. You did. Coach Hill passed away. No, R.I.P. I hit him. Hicks, you know what he told me? Hey man, we're gonna watch him a couple more times before he could boom, boom, boom. So then you let me know that wasn't a real offer. That was an interest offer, right? Come about months later, we go to Corpus Christi. You know, man, I can't think of the coach, bright skin, old school coach that was there at the time.
Willis Wilson.
Willis, you know, Coach Willis, goddamn right? You know I ain't lying. That's how you know I ain't lying. I called you too. That man accepted the offer. That was his real first offer. But to fast forward, Jesse got D1 offers 10th grade with us. He leave 11th grade with stats. I watched him get 10 to 12 offers at your event. I mean, after that event, you see the offers come after the post. And I'm still talking to him at the time. No matter he left now, we got it. Them was real offers. That shit didn't happen on no circuit. He went, I'm not even going to say the name of the circuit. We sent them to a circuit. It was under Armour at the time. Went to California with the team. Just like Lowe said, John Uri went out there with TJ and them. Shit, they told me the same, man, you can come with your guy, all this. Man, they ain't let me come. They ain't give me no ticket. They had a bus. They ain't put me on that bus. I didn't tell my kid he couldn't go. I let him go. I stayed my ass at home because whatever was happening, it was better for the kids, man. But my point is, all that shit happened in Texas. Why everybody stressing? If you ain't EYBL, 3SB, all these people are leaving the city for second tier circuits, bro.
Right. And spending a whole bunch of money and getting in debt, and this is and the tensions rise higher from a lot of families who at the end of the day realize they start at some point in time. Most families are going to sit down and they're going to put out a calculator and they're going to start adding stuff up. All of the money that they've spent on bullshit, all of the bamboozleness that they went through, all of the times all of the social media favors that you paid for. And then people start analyzing. They realize, man, either two things. They realize how fucked up it is. And then they're going to realize, now what are you going to do about it? Are you going to double down? Or are you going to make it better, speak on it, or speak out on it and make it better for the next person? And that's one of the things that has been a detriment of the area, is that people that went out there and you went to get a shrimp basket and the fish and the shrimp was bad and you don't want to tell nobody else, and other people going to the same shop, getting food, and people getting iodine poison from all of this stuff. And that's what's happening. And that's one of the things what's happening. As far as you mentioned about the payment, about the second tier circuits, all it takes is for people that have been on them to reach down and let the guys know, I wouldn't do that if I was you. You can do what you want to, but I wouldn't do that. Just because you go there doesn't mean your kids are going to get seen. In likelihood, they are not. If you got a special kid, if you got a kid and he's special, trust me, other people gonna tell you how special he is. one program gonna always try to steal away your kid, no matter what. That's just the bottom feeder. That's the whole. I call it the dog, cat, rat, cheese theory. The dog is gonna always chase the cat gonna always chase the rat, and the rat gonna always chase the cheese. That's the dog, cat, rat. So no matter who you got, and that's what happens. Now everybody think that they player just because the sneaker program called they mammy or they pappy and tried to lure him away, that he must be a Division One or a major player. That ain't the case. Some people just don't want you to win at all. They'll rather cripple you and take your kid and put his monkey ass at the end of their bench. At the end of the bench, just so you couldn't have a chance to just win. And you ever think about that? I can understand if it's somebody special. Once again, those are the ones we can. They don't come every year. They don't come every 2 years. The city knows special when we see it. Houston people ain't. The only time we get tricked in this stuff is when it's a kid that's close to your heart. It's easy to get tricked like that. But when you watch this shit from afar away, you could tell, man, that kid, he good, but he ain't that.
Yeah.
You know special when you fucking see it. Carlos heard you know special when you see it.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that a lot of people be looking for is special. We ain't looking for good. I'm not looking for good. I get it. You know how many kids they're good? Everybody good. I'm looking for special. That's what's gonna move the needle. On the bigger
Yes, sir.
when I'm talking about on a bigger scale of things. Now, if I know good and I tell you that he's just good, that means you might well go on and run and commit. Try to commit to one of those schools as soon as possible. Go on and or try to commit, and you'll see just how good he ain't.
Yeah.
So
That's a fact. Yeah.
Do you think it should be a pecking order for grassroots basketball? Like you got of course you have the Houston Hoops, the JL3, both for Nike. You have TJ4 and the T Mac, that's Adidas, and I think Coos is Puma, and Blue Chips is Under Armour. So those are the
But
six.
the defenders are New Balance.
Defenders of New Balance, new circuit. Okay, New Balance. Defenders of New Balance, right?
And the blue. And did you mention the Blue Chips?
Yeah, I said Blue Chips. I said Blue
Okay.
Chips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said Blue Chips. Now, do you think they should be able to get the first deal on Houston top tier talent because they have the platforms? Or do you think because like we know, like you just said, it's different seats when you go to these concerts now. So just because all of them are circuits don't mean everybody front row. So that don't mean that every circuit gonna get the same exposure, right? But to help out, should it be a pecking order? Because me and CJ talked one day, and we were just talking about trying to get the city back right. And I told him, I think certain teams, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't put all of them on there because in my opinion, all of their directors are not all for the kids. Not saying everybody is, but it got to be some type of integrity if we go make it rule like this. But I would say it should be a pecking order. Some of them EYBLs, 3SB should get a certain 7 picks of the top kids, and from there we should leave them alone, and then kind of fall down order. Now, once that 7 come, they can't come double dip in and pick, and you get you 4, 5, or 7 kids that we know need to be on certain circuits. And I think people like yourself, and maybe 2 or 3 other people need to kind of pick these individuals that should go to certain circuits, because y'all can identify the kids that will really benefit from the circuits the most and kind of help Houston find that next McDonald's All-American if we have that.
Well, for starters, in entertaining data, I would love to just see somebody explain it in detail all the way from from the top to the bottom on it, and see because I always get proposals and thoughts or verbal proposals and whatnot, and then I'll be the guy that kind of play the devil's advocate. Well, what about this? And for example, if at what point, at what grade or are you talking about? And then what about the guy that has the kid that played with that team since the fifth grade? And that kid played with him in the fifth grade. Now we talking about going into their senior, their last summer after the 11th grade year. That's 6 years that he's played with that one team. So life is good over there for that one kid. It's a relationship. They're like family. Then let's say that one kid who played with another team in the fifth grade, and let's say, for example, just going to use an example. Let's say um, uh, the coach tried to mess with the mama, the single mama, and she turned down his advances because he married, you know, or she getting engaged and he's trying to still come on with it, and then so that parent ain't gonna want nothing to do with that coach,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's 5 years later, because she know how he is. So it's
Right.
kind of like certain things in there. I believe that there should be, once again, I mentioned early on we was talking, I said one of the things that was good back then is that although a lot of people didn't necessarily get all the way along, or not necessarily, a lot of people all the way didn't necessarily like each other, but there was a lot of sincere handshakes when people walked in the room. That means the respect level was cordial, and that is a lot of disrespect in today's grassroots scene. So somehow you have to be able to get the respect level up, and it's earned. I get it. Respect is earned, but somehow we got to figure out how to get that point, because now until you do that, then man, what do we, I think the dog is chasing his tail. We got to have some. It does need some law and order. It does need uh, a meeting of those guys only, those tournament
Mm-hmm.
directors, those directors, and to establish or make an agreement that I'm not going to do this with you. I get it. Some of these guys that think, man, I'm paid to get the best kids. I get that. Here's the deal, though. Truth be told, when you got a kid that's special, that task is going to go beyond that grassroots coach. Corporate is going to send a special agent from their brand into your city to go and meet with that mama and daddy. That's going to be beyond that grassroots sponsor team. If that went over a lot of people's head, then that means whatever deal you have, either A, you with a sneaker brand that just don't believe in their kid and cultivating their talent like that, or B, you just ain't had a kid that's been that good before. Once again, Reese Austin is our best 11th grader in Houston. That's beyond John Lucas to get in with Nike. Nike send people from corporate in Houston, and they met with the mama, met with the dad. And that ain't the first time. It's always like that. People don't realize that. So that guy can. So it's when you because he's special. When the sneaker brand feel that you can move the needle, they will do things for you. You're gonna get your boxes of sneakers are going to be a little bit different than the rest of the team sneakers. Your jogging suit's gonna be a little bit different. The jackets that you get, the product that you get is gonna be. That's the crumbs of the whole thing. They're going to spend money towards you that they're not going to spend towards something else. I mean, when those corporate guys come into Houston or come into your city and meet with those parents, those plane tickets, those hotels, those rental cars, those meals, those deals that you got to make, that means they're investing to get them. So a lot of people, man, A lot of people don't, and I don't expect people to get it. But the mere fact that so many people that are involved in this stuff has don't ask questions. They don't seek out the intel from people that's been in the room, people that had guys that had top 10 players in the country. Is baffling to me because although the rules may change, right? But in some cases, the game is the game. You're just playing with different tools. You're playing with a different hand or a different deck of cards, but you still gonna know your books and know what you're gonna bid if you see your hand, your 13 cards. So that's the thing. People ain't educating themselves. Everybody is flying by night. Everybody get in one room and you done got one business card or you done met one sneaker executive and you think you got it all mapped out. And that's the point. Once again, uh, it's just so much that could be learned and from galvanizing. And I mentioned that touched on it earlier. When you get your product and you get your kids and you're explaining them the importance of doing certain things like registering the vote. Well, if you guys had a block together, two or three sneaker teams, I mean not sneaker team, two or three different grassroots teams from the same side of town, can both the three directors can get and have a meeting now with the chicken shack or with the cell phone provider of a small business owner and say, look, man, we all got kids from different parts of this community, and we just coming to you because we know you. We want to support you, but we need a little help. And is there any way you can think and scratch your head how we can go? We'll make sure our kids and their mamas and daddies will at least try to change their service over to your service. And this and if you let us, you kind of help us back. Little bitty things like that.
Right.
Those economically, we're not proving that we have an economic presence within the grassroots community. People looking at us as liabilities. And once you can go and and establish that you are valuable, we are valuable, and we have value, and it has to be. Then people can believe you when they see the needle starting to move, when they see the young men coming and start doing community service projects, when they see these young men out helping the elderly, they're going through the nursing homes or doing stuff or cutting grass in the neighborhoods and different communities. When people see that and you document that, that's greater than a jump shot because you teaching those young men the skill set that it takes to last beyond the bounce of a basketball. And that's the thing. That's the part right there. And guess what? It's easier said than done. I get it. But for the real part, unless you playing for one of those supreme sneaker teams, 90% of your kids ain't gonna play Division I basketball. So why we chasing a hope or the odds that's already at the 1 percentile or less than that? Why we chasing it just so we can make kids feel good? You still make them feel good and put them in a better reality of where their future can lead. And that's the part. That's the part that hits home right now in regard to so many people in this grassroots community because it's flooded with former basketball stars, and there's never been as many former basketball players that have influence over our young men as it is now. So that means if and a lot of those guys in the same age range. Remember I mentioned range earlier. That means you can understand certain language. Y'all listen to some of y'all listen to the same radio stations. Some of y'all listen to the same music, same artists. So that means you're in the same range of each other. Now you got to find a way to cultivate that into moving the needle past to make it where it's look. we can all do this and we all go here. If we're gonna go out of town, and we're gonna do here, then if all of our three programs are going together, then let's call a director and let's get us a deal. We need a deal because we coming as a block. We're a voting block. We gonna rock. We gonna come there. We may not have no McDonald's All American, but guess what? We coming, and our parents gonna come. So now, what you gonna do? You want our dollars? If you don't, thank you. We're not mad at you, but we just gonna call around and make another couple of phone calls. This is what that means now. People gonna realize, damn, they roll deep. But man, I want them, and that's the thing. That's the part right now that where we at where people, once again, have to create and establish a newfound value that's within what people can say, I gotta get some of it. Rebrand everything. And people gonna influence and tap into another different audience of potential buyers. People gonna buy you. They gonna buy you, Bobby Benjamin. Trust me. And Carlos Hurt. For sure, for real though.
Let me ask you this about the circuit teams. You know, when it's like they want to duck, don't want to play certain competitions. How do you handle that? For like, let's give an example. Spring Icebreaker this year, big event coming up. Everybody looking forward to playing it. Uh, we gonna see all the good matchups, or do you cater to some teams, certain teams, or whatever the circuit is, don't want to play another team at that moment? How do you deal with those situations as a
I,
director?
I mean, normally you're in a first of all, me, people know I want to see certain matchups. Um, the grown up is normally the person within the organization or that grassroots. Normally, one of the grown ups is the reason why certain teams don't play against other teams. And now their reasons might vary, but it ain't the kids. Like you mentioned about ducking, most of the time it ain't the kid. Most of the time. Most of the time it's a grown up that's saying, hey man, we ain't had no practices, but one or two practices, man. We don't give nobody tough. Hey man, we gonna be without this guy, this guy, this guy. You know, man, we don't want to play it. Then there's other ones that had pre-existing problems with certain programs and they don't want to play. And I get that. I get those reasons, you know. Um, so, but once again, if people were thinking, as I mentioned, hit on earlier, for the greater good of the city, certain matchups you should want to take place. It should want to take place. But then, because you involve people, you're not going to lose a sneaker deal. There ain't a team in the history of mankind that has lost their sneaker deal because they lost the game at the spring icebreaker.
Hmm.
None. And it ain't for to happen now. A lot of people, they want to use it. And I think one of the things, Bobby, why you don't see it as much because so many teams, as opposed to yesteryear, are comprised with so many kids from out of town because the talent ran thin locally. So they had to get the incorporation of an influx of DFW kids, San Antonio ASAC kids, as Austin, San Antonio, Killeen, Louisiana kids. There's more of them on more rosters abroad than there used to be. So that means now it's harder to get those kids in town to get that one or two practices on that Thursday as you did before. I get it. But at the same time, what's the big deal? Just, you without so and so. Everybody know you without so and so. You don't have Carlos Hurt, so no problem. Now, the other team better not lose to you if you ain't got Carlos Hurt. And if they did beat you and try to, first of all, that should give you more reason to want to get their ass back when you do get Carlos Hurt. Let's meet up again. Let's get it on. And that's some of the things we got. We have a whole mass of kids to where a lot of people are afraid to put hot sauce on their food, on the kids' food. Nobody want them to be tough. Everybody want to solve all the problems for them. I mean, and I get it. You raise your kids how you want, but then as you coaching and instructing and developing these kids, you have to insert an ingredient of the greater ingredient of toughness in them. A lot of them, most of them just ain't tough enough. And dudes that's tough can tell dudes that ain't tough. You can walk hard as you want to walk. And people paying attention, they know, that dude ain't tough. You know, so that means you got to insert that in them and they have to become that dog. And for some kids, I don't give a damn. You cannot turn a poodle into a pit bull. I get it. That ain't happening. But you can make that poodle be able to protect his house. And you can make him try to bite you on the ankle or something to keep you from going and just coming up in there. So that's the thing in regard to that. The toughness. We don't have enough of that abroad in a lot of our kids now. And I'm not saying you got to go and create no street guys or those street guys that are gonna be fighting and all. You don't have to do, but toughness. There's an element of toughness that every single college coach out there that I know, they all looking for a kid that got some of that toughness in them. They want to protect them.
I feel like a lot of that's missing too because these days the gentrification or whatnot that's going on, I think is affecting the grassroots level as well. What I mean by that is when I watch my daughter, she plays high school basketball now, right? So I can almost look on her schedule and tell the game she gonna win or lose based on the team she gonna play and basically based on the neighborhoods that those schools are in. So the schools that's in predominantly, black neighborhoods, those kids are behind the eight ball by far these days. So we're not getting those kids in, not even in the grassroots level like we used to, because they, for whatever reason, they're not getting picked up, they're not being seen, or we're not tapping into those areas as much as we used to back in the day. I know when you was coming up, even when I was coming up, the predominantly black schools was the schools that was winning. You know what I'm saying? That's just not the case these days. And I want to know, what can we do about that? I know we talk about all the time, what's the problem with this? What's the problem with that? And I want to, hear both of y'all opinions. I have a solution, I think, what we was talking about with Salinas, the Saluki Jazz, the Saluki League, rather, that he had in Sam Houston. The Quillian Rec Center that we got in A-Leaf. Those, are not getting used at all for the youth no more in those areas. That there's no recreational leagues for these kids to play in to develop, a skill set where they can be seen on a shoe circuit level or whatever the case may be. And I feel like that's where you'll get some of that dog naturally. If you have more of those type kids back in that grassroots and that AAU circuit system, a lot of those kids are not being seen. Like your Anthony Edwards, think about this, for example. Ja Morant right now, right? He's not one of the top 10 PGs in the league right now, for whatever reason. Who got the number one selling shoe? You can't, by far, I'm saying, by far, he got the best shoe out there. And those kids, our kids are going to go grab those shoes. I know a whole bunch of kids that's in poverty situations that got those shoes on. They relate to that. You understand what I'm saying? And those kids are behind the eight ball when it comes to being advanced in grassroots basketball, high school level just for their school teams. They're not even on that level that these other kids are on. You know what I'm saying? So what's a solution? What I was getting to, what's a solution y'all feel like we can do about that? If there is any. See, I do you look at you. Yeah.
I feel there's no solution because what you asking is you asking for people who now become a little successful to kind of stay trapped in the cycle, right? So we from A Leaf. You don't live in Houston, but if you did, you wouldn't live. Even when you were, you wasn't living in A Leaf. I don't live in A Leaf no more. So my kids don't go to these A Leaf schools. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
I'm saying, what about the kids that live in A-Leaf, though? What about
Well,
the
you got
kids that live in Fifth
kids that
Ward?
live in A
That
Leaf. Well,
live in, what do you do about those kids? How do
Hick
we
said it.
develop those kids? That's what I'm
It's
asking.
hard for them. In my opinion, it's hard for them to develop and keep that toughness when it's a million AAU programs. Everybody want to be the man now, so even the kid that's a native that could play that ain't really known before the hoops or somebody could get him. You got a mom and pop team that's gonna get him before he finish developing, before he go through a little bit more struggle to stay hungry. They go get him and they go cater to him to have him play on this baby ass team that ain't gonna never get no exposure, but they gonna treat him like he already made it. So once he already made it and he's getting picked up, he got no more struggle. He's not hungry no more. You know what I'm saying? And he might not even be playing against the best competition, even though I ain't better than the guy across the town because this coach gonna try to keep him up under this umbrella, and I'm gonna shelter him. I don't even want him to see all this shit over here because I may lose him to Houston Hoops with Nike and they got all this gear and shit. So I'm gonna keep him in this confined area and hopefully that Nike don't see him and take him from him. So now he ain't gonna grow a blossom into the prospect he could really be with that struggle. He walking to the court every day because nobody go pick him up. He playing against the older kids once he get to the court of grown ups who gonna make him
The
rebound that
last,
motherfucking ball before he could just shoot
um,
any shot.
to your point,
Outside
the
of his
last
mama and
time
daddy
it's
take
possible,
him
but
to a court. Hey,
economics
let my baby
is
get a
not
shot. He
likely to be
ain't
on the
shot it
side of the
yet.
guy,
Like
that kid
shit
from the
is just
hood,
different, bro.
from the urban
They don't even play at the park
city
no more.
to go and excel, because in many cases, uh, that first coach is probably not going to have the means to get him in places where he needs to be to launch that. And the last two players that fit the description, uh, first of all, no matter how talented you are, as I said, you got to have some talent around you, and you can make them kids better. But the last two players that immediately come to mind, that were dogs. Uh, and that's been 10 years ago, at least. You had Curran
Okay.
Roach. Curran Roach played with a team, and that one team was from the. They really wasn't from the hood though, but it was they went to North Shore. A lot of kids there, but everybody knew the North Shore parents. They all came sprouted out, from Fur and from Wheatley and from the Cashmere's and all that. They sprouted out that way and came on in from Barrett Station and Crosby. So the mentality of the parent, for most cases, but Kendrick Davis is one
Mm.
that was definitely inside the Beltway that
Okay.
fit that. However, his coach economics wasn't on his side. He had a day job to go to, and that's the thing. And that guy Tyrone Mingo His nickname was Boney. We called him that. He played baseball with me back in the day in Little League when I was a teenager. And Boney did about as much as he can do, but he had to let Kendrick Davis go to Marlon Lowe with Texas Pro. And it was no way that Boney would have been able to keep Kendrick. If he'd have kept him, Kendrick he would have still went to college. But Kendrick Davis, once he got to play against a lot of those guys around the country, and you could tell he got to sharpen his knife against a lot of them, it let him know, it unleashed a different degree of confidence. Like, man, I can bust some of these dudes' ass, and I'm
But see,
gonna get it.
this what I'm saying to y'all. That's the problem, though. All this, like the things that we complaining about that's wrong with these kids and what's this and that's that. That's where it starts from. You got a bunch of, you got, I'm just call a spade a spade. You got a bunch of winnified kids out here that's being, you know, taught by a lot of winnified people that's really not in position to put these kids in position to be successful. So that's why we don't have no Mickey D. When the last time we had a Mickey D in Houston again?
It's been Quentin Grimes was the last one.
Okay. What's he at?
And they used to compare Quentin Grimes and Kendrick Davis. That was kind of like you, Los.
Yeah.
You had the hood kid and Kendrick Davis, which you would consider the hood kid, and you had T.J. Ford, the good guy. Then you had Quentin Grimes, considered the good guy right there. That was that type of battle there. Could Kendrick Davis have been a McDonald's American? That we never know. But Miss Hicks, I know you got to go, man. We definitely appreciate you.